Hello, my name is Irene Daku. I would like to take a few minutes to describe and to show you how to use SLIPS. SLIPS stands for Storage, Logistics, and Economics of Ethanol Production from stover. And to be specific, corn stover. Corn stover is the above ground residue after the corn grain has been harvested from the corn plant. So every other thing left when you take the corn grain from the corn plant will be called the stover. SLIPS is a two-part dry and wet storage comparative process cost model. So this model covers corn storage logistics from harvest to delivery at the biorefinery and then to the production of ethanol. So it's a very simple to use model. It's Excel based and it has two parts. The first part focuses on upstream processes and among other inputs estimates dry matter loss and delivery cost at the break-even point. And then the second part focuses on downstream processes, which includes ethanol production. And you can use this to estimate ethanol yield and then ethanol production cost, as well as the minimum selling price. So SLIP provides a basis for you to compare wet and dry storage system for biofuel production. So right now, I'll go straight to the model and I'll show you some few things to get you going. So we start at the intro page. So this is the introductory page to the model, and on this page you have a little description of the model, and then you have links to various pages in the model. As mentioned earlier, it's a two-part model, the first part and then the second part, and then we have the output for the first part, which basically gives you, among other things, dry matter loss and delivery cost estimate, and the second part, which gives you ethanol yield and the production cost. So in between we have pages that shows how the various calculations were performed. So if you want to look at dry matter loss, the logistics, the yield, and the cost calculation for ethanol, you can go to these pages. And then we have additional pages that shows the relationship used in this model. Custom rates, that's the cost of some of the activities, harvesting, materials, and so references and frequently asked questions. So we'll start with part 1. So this part, the orange cells where you can enter data. And we start with just a little description of your farm, the size, and you choose the storage method, the yield, the harvest time, and the height of cut. I'm not going to go into the detail, but you can look at the comments and see what some of this data will be used for, or what value will be used for calculating, or the rationale behind some of the options, like 10 to 15 centimeter height of cut and stuff like that. And then here you look at the farm operations. You can tick the operations used. Here you have the moisture content entry into storage. Here you have the storage configurations. We have 5 for dry storage system. We have 5 for wet storage system. And they can provide further more information. And then the transportation distance, the build dimension, the transportation distance. Currently we have only road. In future I might add rail and maybe other modes, but currently we have just road. So I will just go with the values we have here for now. 500 acre dry storage, mowing, willowing, shredding, raking, baling. We use all those options. and is entering more into storage at 25% moisture. It's a dry storage system, enclosed barn, well protected. And so we'll go to our output. So here on the output window, we have some of your input data reproduced just to remind you of the options you chose. And then we have some output here, and I will just focus on a few. The percentage dry matter loss is ranging from 4 to almost 8%, 5 to 8%. And then you have the break-even cost or the minimum delivery cost. And then you have potential losses. And then we have graphical outputs too. So in this graphical output, we have this tree will be the storage option you've chosen. And then we're having the mean, the lower limit, and the upper limit. And here we are comparing that against wet storage system at moisture content of 25 to 75. And this wet storage system is in a vertical silo or the tower silo. And the rationale behind comparing to wet storage system is because this model is actually motivated by need to provide a basis for comparison, a basis for wet storage comparison, because we've heard so much about wet storage. There's been a number of research into wet storage, but it's still seen as a high-risk venture, on industrial level, on larger scale, nobody uses that. And part of the reason is because there's no model of comparison by which people can know how wet storage performs in relation to what they are more familiar with, which is a dry storage system. So this model is providing that tool for you to be able to evaluate and compare wet storage system with dry storage system. So here again we have the delivery cost compared to wet storage system at different moisture level. And then finally we have select outputs, and now we're comparing with wet storage at 65 and wet storage at 35% moisture. So the red bar is the storage system you choose. Whatever storage system you choose will be in the red bar. And the rationale for 65% moisture is because we're trying to compare that to a very common age-old system that's in silage, which is used in the livestock industry. And one of the recommended moisture content for livestock feedstock storage is 65, between 55 to 65. So we're taking this upper limit as one basis for comparison. And then 35 is because it's a lower end unit that most people might feel comfortable with, especially with the fears of transporting moisture over long distance, which is one disadvantage, or what people have considered an impediment or disadvantage to wet storage system and feared to result in very high cost. So we use 35 as a low end and 65 as a high end of what is ideal, what might constitute a good wet storage system. So in this result, using a dry storage of 25% moisture, we find out that that assumption that wet storage would be very expensive because of the moisture that may be transported is not necessarily true. So we can go back to the intro or go back to the input. So we'll go to the input, and you can change. Now we'll still keep dry storage, and let's look for another configuration. Let's use on field, uncovered. we'll still leave it at moisture of 25. So we go to the output, or we see there's some error message, and so what we do is go back to the input and see what could be causing this. So we'll look at the input, we'll find out that it tells us that if we're using an uncovered storage, we need to choose an option here and an option here. Is it elevated? Is it on the floor? We can say it's elevated. It means the bale are not in direct contact to the floor. Maybe they are on a wood stack or on stone or gravel or something. So we choose elevated. We can leave that, or we can decide to choose as a net wrap. We'll just use that, and then we'll go back to output. And then we'll find out that when we use an open storage system at that moisture level, our dry matter loss is very, very high, from 21% to 35%. And then we see very huge dry matter loss compared to the dry storage. And then the delivery cost. Again, the delivery cost, it's higher than a 35% moisture wet storage, but comparable to a 65% wet storage system. So go back and we can change this. Let's try a wet storage system. Now when you use a wet storage system, you don't have to bother about on checking any of this dry storage system. The model will automatically just focus on options for the wet storage system. So here I'm going to just leave this option. We use a first chopper, we use hauling, we use chopping. We'll still use a moisture of 25, and we'll use a bunker silo. We have other options here, but I think a bunker silo will be a fine option. And then you can change the storage duration, and then we'll go to output. And interestingly, we'll find that the bunker silo has a very wide range of dry matter loss, a lot of variability in the dry matter loss, slightly lower than the lower limit of a TOA system and way higher than the upper limit. And then we see that the delivery cost is a little lower than that of a vertical silo. And here we see that the cost is lower. And when you go through the model details, you find out different things that go into the cost calculation. We'll look at losses on the field, losses in storage, the cost of the storage structure, the cost of transportation, the cost of maintenance of the storage, of the feedstock during storage, and the like. So you could have a dry matter loss that's high, which definitely would translate to monetary losses, but there are other factors too that would be considered in your final estimate. Okay, so we'll go back to the intro page and try the second part of the model, which is the ethanol production. The second part of the model, the green cells we have here directly filled, with input from the first part of the model. And then we'll just have a few more information required. And to save time, I'm not going to go into the detail, but here you have an option. Either you use a biorefinery or the farmer. When you use the farmer, it automatically uses the dry matter loss calculated in the first part. If you use a biorefinery, you have an option to give your own dry matter estimates, which you can give here. You can choose to use the existing market or pre-production contract, and this option would kind of very important in determining how much material you have at the end going to the biorefinery for production. Whether you actually meet the nameplate capacity, or there was so much losses incurred that you couldn't, dry matter losses, that you fall short of the nameplate capacity. And here for the feedstock composition, you can choose to use your own estimates, which might be likely if you're using this option, or you can use the model prediction tool, where we use the estimate given in this model. So we'll use my own estimate. And then if there's any pre-processing, washing, drying, size reduction, you can enter that. Are you fermenting only the glucose, or you're doing cellulose and glucose? And then the particle size of your feedstock. Now you can change this unit. I mean, there are options here, centimeter, millimeter, and if you can just choose it, it's going to automatically convert that. So below here we have some other data, but you can change this, but this part of the calculation is the cost of equipment, warehouse, chemicals and stuff that's used in the calculation. So after entering this input, you can go to the output, and here we have two key output: the minimum ethanol selling price and the ethanol production cost. And then we have the net present value given here, and the internal rate of return graphically presented. Again, just as with the first part, in the second part we compare with wet storage system. So we compare with wet storage system at 35 and 65 moisture, and then you have your nameplate capacity. Assume you produce at nameplate capacity and your actual operating capacity. So here is just the minimum selling cost, comparing them, and the ethanol production cost. And then here we have the feedstock cost as a percentage of total cost. Again, here we compare it with three other options. So that's that's basically a little brief on the model. An interesting thing with this model is ethanol yield factors in the changes that takes place. So you can go to the calculation page during storage, so the change in feedstock composition, as well as the acids, the presence of acid, how these acids, we have 4 acids which were influential, how these acids interact with the process and how they eventually affect the final yield. So that's that for now. If you have any question, you should feel free to ask. My email is idd103@psu.edu. We'll be glad to hear any questions, to answer any question you have. And if you have any suggestions on how this model can be improved, that would also be very much welcome. And I guess that's now. I hope you enjoy using this model, and thank you.